Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Marco Collective Gamer 77 or Marco CG 77 coming back here. Today we'll be doing an overview of the Big Blue from Arcade1up. This honestly is probably one of the best value deals that Arcade1up has released. Even though the sticks and buttons are still clones, the package game of 12 games, along with Wi-Fi compatibility for all games, makes this one of the best buys for Arcade1up, especially now during the holiday season when you can find it on sale from at least $4.99. Alright, and of course you'll have Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. It also comes with Hyper Edition and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I only did video on Championship Edition because honestly, besides a few tweaks and the addition of the new challengers and Super Street Fighter, the main gameplay as far as the characters and 80% of the gameplay hasn't really changed too much. Definitely, why if it's not broke, why fix it? The game itself plays very well. I mean, it played very well in Arcade1up's original Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. Goodness, almost 3 years ago now. The gameplay itself still rock solid, still fun to play. Very, very well done. Of course, no air blocking. Good, strong AI, especially if you beat them the first round. They come back and really kick your butt in the second round. But one of the best pieces about this version is it's actually online play compatible. And Championship Edition is pretty popular. You can definitely find some players on there. Definitely a lot of players that know all the tricks. And it definitely showed me when I played someone that I haven't played a live person in quite a while. I was not used to those tricks. Next up is Puzzle Fighter 2. Now this game is a mixture, a little bit of kind of like Puyo Pop, of course, with mini SD versions of the Street Fighter crew, a little bit of Darkstalkers crew as well. Here you see that I'll be facing Morgan, and each character is unique in the fact that with the gems themselves, kind of like a mix of columns, but also say it's also like Puyo because once the gems kind of stack together in either squares or rectangles, they combine to make a larger gem. And then, of course, in order to get rid of those gems, you need to use a corresponding activating gem, which is basically a kind of a flashing circular orb. Once it touches that corresponding color, it then shatters the gems that are either built into a square or a rectangle and initiates a special attack or a special attack. And of course, like Tetris, Puyo Pop, or columns, once that happens and your screen is filled, you either lose or you win if you fill up your opponent's screen. Basically, you do get to, of course, play this online as well. I did check to see if there were any players playing this online, and I actually didn't see any folks play it. Which is kind of sad. It would have been interesting to see how the kind of the lag in the gameplay was with a puzzle game like this. My guess is that it's okay since it's not really kind of timing based too much until your screen gets a little bit more filled up, and that's when really the frames and the timing is a lot more prevalent and important. Still a fun, and I'm glad to see this game that is finally online capable here. Besides playing it on, I believe it was Xbox 360 that released this as well. And next up, we've got Darkstalkers 3, and this is actually the third game in the series. Fortunately, this cabinet does include the first two as well, and as I mentioned on the inset, all 12 games on this arcade cab is live compatible, so you are able to play this with other players online. This is a very fun Street Fighter 2 meets the classic Warner Brothers monster movie, so you've got your Dracula, you've got, of course, Frankenstein, the Mummy, you've got the Wolfman, so it's definitely a very fun and quirky game. Awesome frames of animation. This was definitely amazing to see all the different transitions and the animations that play out while still using familiar Street Fighter controls. I myself I'm a huge fan of the second and third game in the series. Darkstalkers 1 was great, but 2 and 3 brought extra characters and extra balance changes that made the game a lot more fun. This is also one of the times where pressing more than one button will actually enhance your special moves, as long as you've got the meter in order to enhance them. Definitely a lot of fun, and also kind of a neglected title. I know there was a time when Capcom, or especially Yoko Ono, was trying to get this kind of launched and Good, I think it was during the PS3 time. I was trying to hype it up when it was re-released on both the PS3 and the 360. Unfortunately, that collection wasn't purchased by enough folks, so Capcom never went back and revisited Darkstalkers. Hopefully, they'll revisit this or even rival schools in the future. I would love to see that. But this is definitely one of the best ways to play that game, especially considering it is live compatible. At the time of when I was playing and recording this video on Saturday, December 11th, unfortunately, not a lot of players were playing this online, which is a little sad. It is definitely a very fun game to play. And next up, we've got Saturday Night Slam Masters. Definitely a fun game in the vein of Final Fight as far as side scrolling and it controls, because it's pretty simple. It's just an attack and a jump button, and then using a myriad ways of combining the two along with joystick motions to come up with some of the specials, especially when you're grappling. Fun game, also live compatible as well. I didn't play this much in the arcades, as the arcades close by or even the pizza places or the 7-Elevens nearby me did not have this for me to play at home. And of course, it wasn't released much, at least that I can recall, on home systems. I think it might have come out for Super Nintendo and Genesis, but I never picked it up. I kind of wish I did back in the day. This was actually a very fun game to play. Simple, again, just two buttons, attack and a jump, and of course using the directional button. If you press both the attack and jump buttons while using Hager, you get his spinning lariat move. I've only played the first one. Didn't play much of Muscle Bombers as the sequel, but I'm glad to have this as part of the collection. A fun game to, especially if you're playing at least two players, to kind of mess around with. Very fun. A little bit of pro wrestling from Nintendo as far as nods to it. Simple but fun game. Definitely recommended. And next up, you've got Knights of the Round. This is, of course, a hack and slash beat 'em up from Capcom, one of their later ones before Punisher and before Final Fight. So, along the vein of Magic Sword and King of Dragons. Fun little beat 'em up. You can choose from three different players. You can choose from King Arthur, Lancelot, and Percival. Pretty straightforward. One button for jump, one button for attack, and of course a joystick button as well. It's nice to have this as part of the collection just to have a little diversity. I do kind of wish that they included maybe a different game. But I foresee, I think, in the future, thanks to the different kind of beat 'em ups that Arcade1up has licensed, I think in the future I do see them creating like a Capcom beat 'em up collection, maybe in a 4-player cabinet. This game actually, you can choose 3 different players and 3 players in the arcade. I could see them doing this, Magic Sword, King of Dragons, and also possibly like Final Fight, Alien vs Predator in the 4-player cab, added as a beat 'em up collection. If they did that and also included, say, Punisher and Calyx and Dinosaurs and D&D Shadows over Mysteria and Towers of Darkness as a beat 'em up cab, that'd be a fun cab, especially if they made it live compatible as well. This is nice to have to kind of break things up, add a little extra diversity. But I would have loved one of the other titles, especially later on in their beat 'em up genre. Again, it's very similar to like Golden Axe, Final Fight. This is of course before Final Fight, so the characters are much smaller, not as well animated, but still a very fun game to play. And we've also got Eco Fighters, which is basically, despite the name, actually a shoot 'em up. This game is simple, fun, nice way to, again, to kind of break the monotony of the different fighters in this cabinet. Surprised to see it on here. I've never seen it released online anywhere else or for a home system. Definitely more of a shmup like Gradius or things of that nature, Flanks. But a fun little quirky title. Basically, one button controls the rotation of the arm, which actually has where your gun fires from. Of course, collect power-ups, which will differentiate the strength of your shots, and also have a secondary shot, as you can see here, which is more of kind of a homing shot itself. It's, again, a fun quirky title which never was released on a home or a console system, so it's nice to see it as an addition here, just to kind of break up the monotony. Didn't try it online. I honestly did not see anybody playing this game. pretty straightforward. If you were to play with more than one player, it is a two-player shoot 'em up. But nice to see. Never played it in the arcade. Honestly, one of those titles that I never really saw in the arcade. So it's nice to have it here for free, just to, add an extra little variety. Next is Muscle Bomber Duo, which is the sequel to Saturday Night Slum Masters. And what they've done here is they actually also added the tag team feature by default. Whereas in the first game, Saturday Night Slam Masters, you could do single player or tag team. Here there's no choice, it's just a tag team game. So a little bit different, and they also added an extra button. So instead of just punch, jump, or attack and jump, you now have grapple, attack, and jump, which changes the dynamics a bit. Also, another title I never played in the arcade because honestly I just never saw it. So fun to again kind of learn, and definitely a game that I'm definitely going to have to look up all the moves to see how to use the different grapples and things of that nature. But fun title. I'm glad to see that it's on here. And while Muscle Bomber 2 was playing, I will talk about the fact that I didn't record any videos of the Capcom Sports Club. For me, that game is it's an interesting game where you can play either soccer, tennis, or basketball. But honestly, I didn't really get into it too much, so I didn't record it for this video. For people that do want to try it, for me, it's kind of a throwaway title. I honestly, for this batch, I would have preferred seeing Pocket Fighter. I think that would have been a fun way to have that show as part of a fighting, cab, because the controls are very different. And there's also tons of animation, and again, one of those titles that never really saw an arcade perfect iteration for home. It did come out on the Sega Saturn, and if you had the RAM card, it looked amazing with the extra frames of animation that was missing on the home version. So in a way, instead of the Capcom Sports Club, I wish they released Pocket Fighter for the home arcade. And now for the main reason why most folks should pick up the Big Blue, as the way to play live opponents online for free using internet connection. Here I used only Wi-Fi. Did not have an Ethernet. The connection was pretty decent. It was 48 milliseconds, and it really felt like I was playing someone in the same room. I chose Ken here by accident. I was trying to choose Ryu. Didn't matter. I still got my butt kicked, and honestly, it brought me back to those days when, again, I have not touched a lot of these games competitively in a very long time. A lot of the times I do pick up Street Fighter 2. I did pick up the 30th anniversary for both the Switch, even for PC, but I honestly have not played it with a live person or against a human player, I should say. I mostly, by the time I'm playing, it's gonna be against a computer, and it's got so used to playing AI that playing a live person is very different. Especially here, I'm unranked. This person is ranked, I believe, seventh. I forgot what his ranking was, but he's definitely a ranked player. And he definitely knew his Dalsum, or they knew. I shouldn't assume it's a he. But the player was very good at Dalsum, knew the right timings for anti-airs, when to throw out his fist, when to throw out his downward, spinning headbutt attack. He definitely, once he got me in a corner, he completely decimated me and was able to dizzy me, and knew when to, throw out just the right attack and when to approach to go for a grab. So definitely something, even though I got my butt kicked, at least I think I played 4 games against him. I used Ken, Ryu, and I think one other character, and then Zangief. Lost every time. The only time I won is I won one round with Ken and another round with Zangief. Um, I think he was being nice to me. Honestly, he was one round, or they were being nice to me, because one round they, let me kind of get the feeling I used to, kind of playing the character, and then the next round they would use every Dalsum trick that they knew and just completely decimate me just to show the mastery of their character. But that's fine. That's what it is. I mean, that's the reason why you play these competitively, to play against another player. So towards that end, it really shows why this Big Blue is such a good pickup is to be able to play live opponents for free, not have to play as part of the network, whether that be Xbox Live, whether that be Switch Online. Especially right now, I am not a huge fan of the Switch Online, either $20 or $50 tier, especially since they have poor online. At least Xbox Live, PSN has great online code as well versus the Switch. And of course, this is also on PC using the Street Fighter 30th anniversary on Steam, so that is another way to play it. But being able to play it arcade style with a cabinet with controls, the Big Blue, especially right now with holiday sales in December of 2021. There's a lot of sales going on. This cabinet originally retailed at $5.99. I think right now it's at $4.49 to $4.99 in some places. So in Arcade1up and Best Buy, it's at $4.99. Considering you get 12 titles and that they're all live compatible, definitely worth it. The only con, honestly, is that there aren't enough players in every one of these 12 games that where you'll find people to play against. Championship Edition, definitely for sure. Stalkers, some games that I saw, I think it just depends on the time of day. Puzzle Fighter, did not see anyone play, to be honest, and I didn't really see anyone play Knights of the Round, nor Eco Fighters, or the Capcom Sports Jam, or 3-in-1 Jam, I forgot what it's called. And the only other con is that even though as much and as fun as it is to have all 12 titles live compatible, they're still using the Sanwa clones when it comes to stick and buttons. The buttons are still very mushy, and I am going to be replacing those. I unfortunately lost somehow my Dremel tool, so I ordered another one from Amazon, waiting for that to arrive, so I can make the adjustments and modifying it to add Sanwa sticks. Sanwa buttons. One thing I did do is I did change the square gate to an octagonal Sanwa gate, so that makes it feel a little bit nicer, but I definitely want to get rid of the mushy buttons. Other than that, the only other con with this title, of this cabinet, are the speakers. I honestly had to play this on 15 because they're a little too soft. I'm just not sure it's because they're trying to switch some of the audio out to the headphone jack. If they use it, there's just not enough power for the amp. But unfortunately, this cabinet is a little soft. The X-Men arcade cabinet on 13 is much louder than this cabinet at 15. So that definitely is one other thing to think about. Other than that, I think it's a great deal, especially right now with holiday sales. If you are looking to pick up a good cab, this is definitely one that I would actually recommend between the $4.49 to $4.99 price for the holiday sales 2021. Well, that's everything, folks. Hope you liked the overview. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.